You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments below. Be sure to smash that like button. So, Lincoln Riley is not going to be LSU's head coach. He made that abundantly clear just minutes after Oklahoma lost to Oklahoma State in Bedlam. This is how it sounded.
I'm just saying I'm gonna ask you about it, so I might as well. I mean, it's nonstop. I mean, it's every day.
Hold up, Gary. I'm not going to be the next head coach at LSU.
Can I ask you?
Next question.
So, Lincoln Riley made it abundantly clear. He wasn't going to be the next coach at LSU. And Lincoln Riley wasn't lying. The mistake many of us made, though, is we assumed that meant that he was spurning LSU to stay at Oklahoma when all the while USC was lying in wait. Boy, there is a lot of angst today in Norman, Oklahoma. There are signs all over Oklahoma's campus calling Lincoln Riley a traitor. Big banners everywhere. Just look on the internet anywhere. You'll see traitor photos. I mean, the Sooner guy with the little satchel and everything like that, someone now has him holding a traitor sign right there at the front of the university. It's all over. That's what Oklahoma fans are referring to Lincoln Riley as today. Although I don't think many people in our audience here are so concerned about the Oklahoma ramifications, they are the LSU ramifications. And I will tell you, I've spent essentially the last 36 hours with a phone affixed to my ear. It's because my AirPods suck. They're broken. I need new ones. And I am convinced that LSU got played by Lincoln Riley. There, and USC. There is a lot of damage control coming out of LSU today, insisting, Lincoln Riley was never really our target. We got this. Don't worry about it. There's a lot of that. And that is CYA garbage. You know what CYA stands for. Cover your butt. Garbage is what that is today. LSU got played, y'all. There were a lot of people who said, Lincoln Riley's never leaving Oklahoma. Oh, yes, he was. He had wandering eyes. That much was unmistakable from anyone who was following this. Because as deep as the conversations between LSU's representatives and Riley's representatives got, if there was no interest whatsoever, if he was just staying at Oklahoma with no interest at all in looking around, he could have squashed that very early in the process. But clearly he wanted something. My assumption was LSU was going to have to bid against Oklahoma, and Oklahoma would counter, and then LSU would have to up the ante and see if they could pry him away. Never thought USC was there lurking, and clearly neither did LSU. Lincoln Riley had wandering eyes. We were at SEC Media Days this summer when the news broke that Texas and Oklahoma were coming into the SEC. And when LSU played in the Peach Bowl against Oklahoma, I had a lot of did a lot of reciprocal media with some Oklahoma people. And the most interesting thing last week, as the Riley conversation really started to get heated, was the degree of, I'm going to use this word very carefully, but arrogance from the Oklahoma side. And I'm not necessarily calling their media members arrogant, but it was more like, hey, could you check on this? And the response back was just, people are just laughing at us for asking. Oklahoma never saw this coming. They didn't. Which leads me to believe Riley was telling LSU he's interested. He was telling Oklahoma, I'm not going anywhere. All the while, he had the deal with USC in his back pocket. Lincoln Riley brilliantly used LSU as a smokescreen to cover the real deal he had, which was at Southern Cal. And LSU never saw it coming. Which is why LSU today still doesn't have a coach. Again, LSU can say whatever they want. And they're doing their best to leak information out there to let people know, we're good. Scott's got his guy. He's had this. I'll tell you this. There's a lot of very wealthy people in this state who contributed to that $26 million worth of buyout money that are pissed off today, that want answers and explanations. Because if Lincoln wasn't really your guy, why don't you have a coach right now? And there is no answer, because you know the answer. And LSU scrambling. To be very clear, LSU still has a tremendous amount to offer. They got a pile of cash, great resources, all of those things that are still relevant to attract a really good coach. But the pool is shrinking. The pool of splash hire candidates is shrinking because the guy, the whale you were after, chose someone else. There's a lot of people who are saying, why would he pick USC over LSU? Again, I want to go back to some of the conversations that I had with Oklahoma media people when that SEC news was announced. And there were a lot of them that opined that Lincoln Riley would never coach for Oklahoma in the SEC. That he didn't feel like, and this is, again, secondhand, this isn't Lincoln Riley saying it, this is people who cover that program. This was a general belief from multiple people who cover that program. The general belief was Lincoln didn't feel like OU had the resources to week in and week out compete in the SEC. Could they beat SEC teams? Absolutely. But week in and week out of that grind, he didn't feel like they were ready for it. And the thought was that he would never coach Oklahoma in the SEC, but the thought was he'd go to the NFL, not another college job. Yet, here we are. I'll also mention that as many resources that LSU has, there is a drawback, and it's the pressure. LSU has fired its last two coaches, both of whom won national championships. The most recent, less than 2 years after winning a national championship in a 15-0 season. Now, we can discuss the nuance of that and why that decision was made, but from the 10,000-foot view, you see that LSU's fired its last two coaches who both won national championships. It's an almost unrealistic expectation that some may not want to bear. And there's also what LSU can offer, which is Hollywood, the glitz and glam and lifestyle of Los Angeles, which appeals to some people and clearly did to a 38-year-old Lincoln Riley. So where does LSU go from now? Look, I told you last week that Lincoln Riley was the target, and it was my understanding that Mark Stoops was the floor. You can only hire one person. And I don't believe Scott Woodward is going to be able to pull the trigger on Mark Stoops. I don't. It was made very clear to me that that's someone that he targeted. But if the Board of Supervisors and other very influential people have influence in this decision, I don't know how you've sold people on this big name hire and then you land on Mark Stoops. Even if that's the guy that Scott thinks would fit, who, by the way, I think would do really well here. I don't know how you sell that at this point. So, if Lincoln was your guy and you paid $26 million in buyout money to get rid of Ed and his staff, and you're going to commit $100 million to the next coach, and you think it's going to be Lincoln Riley, how do you end up with Mark Stoops? I don't know that you can. So who is it? Who fills that gap? To be very clear, I have no idea. Spent 36 hours fielding phone calls, and there was basically two perspectives, and it was split 50-50. Some was the LSU people say, he's got it, don't worry about it. We know what we're doing. Everyone's going to be very happy. And the other side going, they ain't got a clue. Riley was their guy, now they're scrambling. And I tend to lean on Riley was their guy, now they're scrambling. But with a lot to offer, how quickly can they move to get a deal done? I've heard Matt Rule's name mentioned. I've heard Brian Kelly's name mentioned. Some people have thrown out Bob Stoops, who now is the interim coach for the bowl game at Oklahoma, so that doesn't seem realistic. Some people have thrown out Doug Peterson, who's a Super Bowl champion. Some have mentioned Lane Kiffin. I've told you that I think that's a non-starter for Scott Woodward. Some keep circling back to guys like Luke Fickell or Dabo. Might they call Jimbo again? I don't know. But when you're having those conversations at this point in the process, it's very clear that you did not have an actionable backup plan. Riley was your guy. You thought you had it done. You got played. You didn't have a backup. And now you're scrambling. I believe that's where LSU is right now. They still have a lot to offer and may still well land a very big name that gets people excited. But I don't believe anyone up there knows who that is as of this moment right now. And we will wait and see. They better do it quickly because every day that passes, your current roster and your committed players get wandering eyes, and there are vultures all over college football pecking away at them every single day. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.